All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're taking a look at the work of criminologist Jock. His book, The Exclusive Society, is this really powerful way of understanding the pressures and, frankly, the inequalities that a lot of us feel in our time. Ever feel like that? Like you're constantly being told you should want everything, but all the doors to actually get it are slamming shut? If that feeling hits home, well, you've just tapped into the central idea that kicks off Jung's entire theory. He says this feeling, this massive contradiction, is directly connected to crime and a lot of the conflict we see in society. So to really get a grip on why things can feel so unstable right now, Jung says we first have to rewind and look at this huge shift, a shift from what he saw as a more stable past into what he calls late modernity. So Jung paints this picture of two completely different worlds, right? On one side, you've got this post-war golden age. Think stable, lifelong jobs, strong communities, and social safety nets that actually caught you if you fell. But on the other side, well, that's our world. Unstable gig work, a focus on the individual, and this constant feeling that those safety nets are gone. And this isn't just about jobs and money. Jung argues this creates something much deeper he calls ontological insecurity. It's that deep, gnawing feeling, like you're playing a game, but someone switched the rulebook on you overnight. The very ground you're standing on feels shaky. Okay, so we've got this foundation of insecurity. Now what happens next? What happens when that ladder to success isn't just hard to climb, but feels like it's being pulled up from the top? This, Jung says, is how you create a society that doesn't just leave people behind, it actively shoves them to the margins. And this is where Jung's biggest idea comes in: social exclusion. And look, this is so much deeper than just not having enough money. It's about being totally shut out, locked out from having a real say, from getting a stable job, from even being seen as a valuable part of society. So Jung lays out this kind of step-by-step process, this causal chain. It goes like this. First, the system blocks you out, right? It denies you a fair shot. Then that creates this intense frustration. You see what you're supposed to have, but you can't get it. And for some people, crime becomes, well, it becomes a way out, a way to cope, or maybe even to fight back against a system that's pushed them out. All right, now for what is maybe Jung's most brilliant and kind of disturbing metaphor for how all this works. He calls it the Bulimic society. Just think about that for a second. Our society is constantly telling you to binge, right? Binge on the latest products, the celebrity lifestyles, the whole dream. It's a non-stop buffet of desire. But, and this is the crucial part, at the exact same time, it systematically purges huge chunks of the population, basically vomiting them out so they can never, ever get a piece of that pie. And this quote from Jung himself just hits the nail on the head. Paradoxically, cultural inclusion is the inverse of structural inclusion. What does that even mean? Well, it means the more the culture pulls you in and makes you want things, the more the actual structure of society might be pushing you away from ever being able to have them. And you can see this conflict playing out everywhere, can't you? On one side, you have the dream, the ads, the influencers, the promise that if you just work hard enough. And on the other side, you've got the reality for so many people, dead-end jobs, massive inequality, and the feeling that the game is rigged. But hold on. Is it really that simple? Jung's whole theory has some pretty sharp critics, and they ask a really important question that challenges his entire starting points, that so-called golden age. Yeah, exactly. Was that post-war world really so inclusive? Academics like Majid Yar and Sue Penna tell us to pump the brakes on getting too nostalgic. They basically say, hey, before we talk about how great it was, let's ask, who was it great for? And when you start digging, the picture gets, well, it gets pretty ugly. The critics point to stuff that's hard to ignore. We're talking about widespread open racism. No blacks, no Irish signs were a real thing. Women were systematically sidelined. People with disabilities were just locked away. Being gay was a crime. For millions of people, this inclusive society was anything but. So this totally flips the script, doesn't it? The argument is that social exclusion isn't some new disease of late modernity. Instead, maybe it's always been a feature, not a bug. Maybe the comfort and inclusion for some people has always depended on the exclusion of others. And that leaves us with a huge and kind of difficult final thought. If there was no golden age to go back to, if that inclusive past is mostly a myth, then what does a truly inclusive future
even look like? How do we build something for the very first time that actually includes everyone?